Sodom was a living, pulsing city, full of trade, music, and voices. People walked the streets in a hurry, carrying desires in their eyes and no fear in their hearts. There was abundance everywhere, easy pleasures, dirty deals, carefree laughter, endless parties. Anyone passing through might think it was the most prosperous place on earth, but behind the beauty, a rot was silently growing. The streets were crowded, but no one could see. The altars were empty, but no one missed them. The windows were open, but the heavens were closed.
God? What God? Not even he has the guts to stop us.
Far from there, in the dry heat of the desert, a man named Abraham received 3 mysterious visitors. They were not ordinary travelers. They were messengers. 2 were angels. The third was the Lord himself. They brought a mission, and the name of the city was among the first to be judged. Abraham felt the weight. He knew something was about to happen, that Sodom would not survive the next dawn. He interceded. He cried out for justice. He pleaded for mercy. But the judgment had already been sealed. Meanwhile, in Sodom, people laughed, danced, sinned. No one stopped. No one suspected that the ground beneath their feet was about to open. The heavens had risen. Punishment was already in motion. And when the fire begins to fall, there is nowhere to hide. Houses, temples, palaces, children, animals, all would be consumed. Because when God closes the heavens, it is to open the earth. And what was about to happen would not be a warning. It would be the end. Abraham lived among tents and altars, far from the walls of cities, surrounded by servants, flocks, and promises. His eyes, though aged, still searched the heavens for direction, and his heart remained attentive to the voice of the one who had called him out from among the Chaldeans. But the blessing he carried also spread, and Lot, his nephew, prospered by his side, accumulating wealth, servants, cattle, and influence. Over time, the land could no longer hold them both. The herdsmen of Abraham and those of Lot began to dispute the pastures, the wells, the paths. A quiet discord grew, threatening to destroy the bond of blood and faith that united them. Then Abraham, with humility and wisdom, proposed a separation. He called Lot and said, with firmness and gentleness,
I beg you, let there be no strife between me and you, between my herdsmen and yours, for we are relatives. Is not the whole land before you? Choose where you will go. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left.
Then Lot lifted his eyes, and what he saw seduced him. The plain of the Jordan, fertile and abundant, stretched like a green carpet at his feet. It was well watered, vast, and promising. And in the heart of that valley glimmered Sodom. Without hesitation, without seeking divine direction, without considering spiritual consequences, Lot chose by appearance. He descended eastward, separating himself from his uncle. He pitched his tents near Sodom. Then he entered. Then he was seated among the judges at the city gate. He blended in. He adapted. He got involved. Abraham remained. He was not moved by appearances. He did not choose with his eyes. He continued his pilgrimage through deserts, keeping his altar burning and his faith alive. And on one of those days of heat and silence, 3 men appeared before him. They did not come with titles. They brought no armies. But there was an authority in them that made time stop. Abraham ran to meet them, bowed to the ground, pleaded with them to stay, prepared bread, meat, and shade. He didn't know everything, but he felt something. Heaven was moving, and those men were not there by chance. They ate with him, accepted his hospitality, and when they rose, they turned their faces toward the plain. It was Sodom. And then, while two of them went on toward the city, the third remained. Abraham stood before him, and it was in that moment that God spoke, not with thunder, but with clarity.
Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? He will become a great nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed in him.
And the Lord, while affirming his covenant, revealed his judgment.
The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grievous. I will go down now and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. And if not, I will know.
It was not divine doubt. It was righteous judgment about to begin. Abraham listened. His heart grew heavy. He knew the time of patience was running out. Evil had reached its limit. Heaven was about to descend. But Sodom did not fall in a single night. It bent degree by degree, like a knee surrendering, not to the Most High, but to the abyss. What began with silent concessions ended with public celebrations of iniquity. In the squares, statues of pagan gods replaced the ancient landmarks. Men dressed as foreign deities. Women consecrated their wombs to fertility rituals where children were not loved, they were offered. The smoke of sacrifices covered the sky, mixed with the scent of spilled wine and fresh blood. And they shouted in the streets,
"This is the time of our dominion."
And the city applauded and danced and slept with its own reflection. Justice was corrupted. Verdicts were bought. Judges feasted at night banquets where decisions were sealed with flesh, gold, and flesh again. The poor who cried out for justice were silenced with rods. Widows were driven from their homes so nobles could take them for pleasure. The orphan begging for bread was sold for a coin. And in the alleys, the poor cried,
"If we cannot eat, we are dead."
But no one listened. Or if they did, they laughed. In the darkness of a back street, a boy covered his face as two men dragged a young woman behind a temple. No one intervened. It was tradition. It was freedom. It was custom of the city. And high above in the palaces, rulers toasted with silver goblets, each engraved with a pagan symbol, each toast an affront to the eternal. And their counselors declared,
"If the God of Abraham exists, let him speak. Until then, we shall be gods."
The words were hurled like spears into the heavens, and heaven was silent. For now. But among all the perversions, one pierced even the wind. The men of Sodom burned for each other, not in secret, but in public squares. They took by force what they desired and mocked those who resisted. They called lust virtue and surrender nobility. Houses were open to all forms of union. There is no law over love, they said. But what existed there was not love. It was domination, lust, possession, and mockery of the Creator. Boys were taken as tribute, youths as trophies. The elders taught the young to defile as if it were a rite of passage. And the women, despised, did the same among themselves, selling their bodies as defiance to heaven. It was as if the entire city, with one voice, declared,
"We will do with our bodies as we please, and whoever dares oppose us will be forgotten."
Sodom's pride was not only in the flesh, It was in its carved heart of stone, in the pleasure of domination, of humiliation, of control. Foreigners who entered the city were first welcomed, then tested, and finally corrupted or destroyed. Those who resisted vanished. The houses, ornate on the outside, hid death packs within. The wide streets, where chariots pulled by gleaming beasts passed, concealed the bodies of those thrown into the sewers of inequality. But among the alleys and shattered rooftops, a different sound still echoed. A whisper, a forgotten name, a distant memory of the God of justice. A few, very few, still prayed in secret. But their voices were faint. Their cry could not drown the sound of the feasts. Then, on a moonless night, a star fell. Small, nearly invisible, but it streaked across the sky like a warning, and in the silence of the heavens, an angel moved. Night fell over the plain with a strange slowness, as if time itself were waiting for something. The city of Sodom kept its usual pace, loud, careless, full of smoke, laughter, and music. But that night, 2 travelers passed through its gates. There was no light over them, no announcement, but they carried a presence that carnal eyes could not perceive. They were the angels sent by Jehovah, and no one saw them with reverence. No one, except one man. Lot was seated at the city gate among the judges, as he did every day. He saw the 2 strangers, and even after so many years among the customs of that place, something within him still knew. He rose quickly, bowed with his face to the ground, and spoke with urgency.
Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house and spend the night. Wash your feet, and in the morning you may rise early and go on your way.
They replied,
No, we will spend the night in the street.
But Lot insisted more strongly, knowing the hidden danger in every shadow, in every corner. He knew what happened at night in Sodom. They accepted. In Lot's house, everything was prepared in haste. Unleavened bread, a place to rest, no questions asked, no names revealed. But the city did not sleep. News of the arrival of 2 unknown men spread like wildfire through dry grass. Before the visitors lay down, a crowd surrounded the house. Men from all parts of the city, young and old, without exception. They pounded on the door, shouting wildly,
"Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so we may know them."
It was a direct, vulgar, collective demand. They didn't just want to see them. They wanted to dominate them, humiliate them, use them as a spectacle. Lot, in desperation, stepped out. He shut the door behind him and tried to stop them.
I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Look, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof.
His proposal was monstrous. It revealed a divided heart, corrupted by a culture where the logic of protection had been reversed. He was willing to sacrifice his daughters in the name of a broken law, the law of hospitality. The crowd was unmoved. They mocked him, shouted,
"Get out of the way. This foreigner came here to live among us, and now he wants to judge us. We'll do worse to you than to them."
And they surged forward, pressed the door, pushed with hatred. Lot was about to be crushed, with no time to react. But the angels reached out, pulled him back inside, and slammed the door shut with supernatural force. Then, with an invisible gesture, they struck all who were outside with blindness. Darkness fell on them, and even then, they groped on, stumbling over one another, still trying to find the door they could no longer see. Lot, stunned, watched. The angels turned to him and spoke with a firm voice.
Do you have anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons, daughters? Whoever you have in this city, get them out, for we are going to destroy it.
The tone was not of warning. It was a sentence. The sin of the city had reached its limit. The last chance had passed, and it was in that moment that heaven prepared to descend. The dawn had not yet fully broken when the angels urged Lot, who stood frozen, hesitant, as if he didn't grasp the weight of what he had just heard. The sentence had been declared, the destruction was appointed, and yet he lingered. He looked around, as if searching for something to save. Perhaps his possessions, perhaps the past, perhaps one last comfort. The angels didn't wait for Lot's faith. They acted by the mercy of God. They took his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters, and dragged them out of the city, for the text says clearly, the Lord had mercy on him. Once beyond the city walls, the angels gave their final command.
Run for your lives. Don't stop anywhere. And do not look back.
But Lot still hesitated. The mountain seemed far. The desert was uncertain. He replied,
Please, let me go to that small town over there. It's nearby, and I can survive there. It's just a little town. Let us take shelter there.
The angel agreed and said,
Very well. I will spare that city for your sake. But go now, quickly. I can do nothing until you arrive there.
Lot ran with his family toward that small town called Zoar. Behind them, the sky began to change. The wind ceased. The clouds closed in. The silence of judgment overtook the plain. And at the exact moment Lot entered the limits of the city, the judgment began. Fire came from the sky, not a natural flame, but a burning rain of sulfur and fire sent directly from the Lord. The earth shook, the hills split, the houses collapsed in seconds, the screams echoed, then vanished. The beauty of the plain was consumed in fire. The deceitful promise of Sodom turned to ash. In the midst of the escape, while running, Lot's wife, who was at his side, turned her head. She looked back. She disobeyed the clear order of the messengers, not only with her eyes, but with her heart. The attachment she felt to that city, to what she had built there, spoke louder. Maybe she wanted to see if it was true. Maybe she longed for one last look at her home. Maybe she mourned what she was leaving behind. But heaven did not accept it. In that instant, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Her body stiffened. She stopped. She was left behind. An eternal mark of disobedience and hesitation. A silent monument to the danger of loving the world more than salvation. Lot kept going, but now without his wife, without a past, without a home. He reached Zoar, but there was no relief. The destruction continued in the distance. The heavens remained shut. Smoke rose like a never-ending pillar. He was saved, but not whole, not clean, not at peace. He had been pulled out by grace, but his heart still trembled for what he had lost and for what he had allowed. But that was not yet the end. There was still something more in the valley of destruction. Lot found no refuge in Zoar, for though the fire had ceased, the fear had not been extinguished in his heart. The city, though spared, still felt too close to the memory of judgment. Fleeing once more, he took his 2 daughters to the mountains, hiding in a dark cave, where silence reigned, and where no word was spoken to God, no altar was built, no repentance was recorded. He had been saved, but not transformed. The daughters, believing the world had ended, or using that as an excuse to act without faith, devised a desperate solution with no divine direction. They got their father drunk night after night, and in complete stupor, he lay with both of them, unaware, unseeing, unresisting. From each was born a son, Moab from the eldest, and Ben-Ami from the youngest, names that would become the roots of entire nations, future enemies of God's people, living marks of a twisted legacy from a generation that survived judgment, but did not escape its consequences. And it was in that darkness of the cave, after everything, that Lot, sober at last, lifted his eyes to the stone ceiling and murmured with a breaking voice,
God of heaven, you saved my body, but what's left of me, what I lost, was more than stones and roofs.
Lot came out of Sodom alive, but he carried Sodom with him. And while the city burned in the valley, the echo of sin kept growing in the shadows of the cave. Sodom was reduced to ashes, but its story continues, not only in the pages of Scripture, but in the hearts that reject the fear of God, in cities that celebrate sin and mock holiness, in cultures that turn perversion into a right and truth into an offense. The cries of injustice, the blood of the innocent, the outcry of the oppressed, it all still rises. Heaven is still listening, but it is also still responding. This story is not just about destruction. It is about warning. It is about mercy. It is about a God who judges with justice, but still saves those who turn to him with a broken heart. And if this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel to keep receiving our content, because this channel exists to proclaim what many prefer to ignore. And remember, do not despise the warning. Do not harden your heart, because the next time heaven opens, it won't be to rain sulfur. It will be to reveal the King who comes with fire in his eyes and justice in his hands. And may God bless us